Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
Across the Orion arm of the galaxy, countless civilizations had risen, flourished, and vanished. Most disappearances had explanations: war, ecological collapse, stellar catastrophes. But some systems simply went silent. Entire star clusters lost contact within days. Colonies vanished without distress signals. Fleets disappeared while traveling established trade lanes. Among the oldest spacefaring species, there was only one whispered explanation: the Critheri Dominion. They were not conquerors. They were not diplomats. They were hunters. The Dominion had existed for over 8,000 standard cycles. Their territory spanned hundreds of star systems hidden in regions of space few civilizations dared explore. Their ships rarely appeared on galactic maps, and when they did, it was already too late. The Critheri believed something simple and terrifying: war was sport. Their society revolved around the hunt. Young warriors trained from the moment they could walk. Their bodies were engineered through centuries of genetic selection: dense muscle fibers, chitin-like armor plating beneath their skin, multiple visual spectrums through 4 independently focusing eyes. Their claws could slice through most alloys used in civilian ships. Their reaction speed was nearly double that of most known species. But what truly defined the Critheri was their culture. They did not wage war to control territory. They hunted species. A prey civilization was selected, its biology studied, its technology evaluated, its defenses mapped. Once the Dominion determined the prey would provide an entertaining challenge, the hunt began. The stronger the prey resisted, the greater the honor, and the greater the trophies. Inside the massive war chamber, the Dominion flagship Apex Predator, hundreds of elite hunters gathered in tiered circles surrounding a central projection field. Floating above the chamber was a slowly rotating blue sphere, a world. Its surface swirled with vast oceans, fractured continents, and violent storm systems that stretched thousands of kilometers. Vorik Shale stepped forward. He was the current hunt master of the Dominion, the highest tactical authority among the warrior caste. His towering frame bore scars from dozens of successful hunts, and across his armor hung the preserved trophies of fallen enemies: blades, armor fragments, even the skull crest of a long-extinct warlord species. His voice carried through the chamber with cold authority. "Behold our next hunt." The projection zoomed outward. The blue world shrank as its star system appeared around it. 8 planets, gas giants dominating the outer orbits, a dense asteroid belt, and scattered among the inner worlds were dozens of metallic objects: ships, stations, satellites. A young interstellar civilization. One captain leaned forward. "They have already reached orbital industry," he observed. "Yes," Vorkshire replied. "Primitive warp capability as well." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Primitive warp travel meant the species had begun expanding beyond its home system. Colonies likely existed nearby. Trade routes had probably formed. The hunt would not be confined to a single world. It would span multiple systems. More prey, more trophies. Another hunter studied the planet's environmental data, streaming along the holographic display. The numbers caused a ripple of confusion. Gravity 1.0 standard. Atmospheric oxygen levels 21%. Native biosphere classification. Apex predator density extremely high. A pause spread through the chamber. Then quiet laughter. One of the elder hunters clicked his mandibles in amusement. A death world. The term had specific meaning within galactic biology. Death worlds were planets where environmental conditions were so hostile that most known species could not survive long on the surface. High gravity crushed fragile skeletons. Aggressive ecosystems filled with predators ensured constant competition. Violent weather patterns created extreme survival pressures. Very few intelligent species evolved on such worlds. Those that did were unusual. Vorik Shale allowed the laughter to fade. Then he zoomed the projection further into the planet's surface. Images appeared. Cities sprawling across continents. Metal structures piercing the atmosphere. Vehicles traveling through the sky. Armor machines rolling across deserts. And everywhere, one particular species. Bipedal, forward-facing eyes. Flexible hands capable of manipulating complex tools. Designation. Humanity, Vorik Shale said. They call their world Earth. Another captain tilted his head. They appear physically unimpressive. Indeed, the humans lacked obvious biological weapons. No claws, no armor plates, no venom glands. Compared to many species the Dominion had hunted, they looked fragile. Vorik Shale expanded a new display. Historical records. Human warfare. The chamber fell silent. Thousands of battles scrolled past a hologram. Wars between nations. Wars across continents. Wars that lasted decades. Millions dead. Then tens of millions. Then more. One hunter hissed softly. They kill their own kind at extraordinary scale. Yes, Vorik Shale replied. And yet they survive. The projection shifted again. Human soldiers training. Urban combat simulations. Specialized weapons. Subterranean bunkers. Orbital defense platforms. They evolved on a world that tries to kill them daily. Vorik Shale continued. Predators larger than themselves. Diseases capable of wiping out cities. Climate disasters capable of destroying entire regions. He turned toward the gathered warriors. And they adapted. Silence filled the chamber now, not laughter. Interest. Predators recognized other predators. One captain finally spoke. Will they run? Vorik Shale studied the rotating planet. Storms swirled across its oceans. Lightning flashed through towering cloud systems. This species survived ice ages, mass extinctions, and countless wars among themselves. He flexed one claw slowly. They will not run. A thin smile formed along his mandibles. They will fight. And that, to the Krithari Dominion, was the most exciting hunt of all. Far from the Dominion fleet, on a quiet human listening station near the outer edge of the solar system, a faint signal briefly flickered across a deep space sensor array. The automated system flagged it as an anomaly, unknown propulsion signature, extremely advanced. The alert was transmitted toward Earth, but the signal came from far beyond the outer planets, and it would take hours to arrive. By then, the hunters of the void would already be inside the system. The Krithari Dominion never attacked blindly. Every hunt began the same way. Observation. Weeks before the first shot was fired, stealth vessels slipped into the outer edges of the Sol system. Their hulls bent light and scattered sensor signals, rendering them nearly invisible to the young human detection networks. From the shadows beyond Neptune, they watched human traffic patterns, military patrol routes, communication satellites, colonial supply convoys. The Dominion analysts mapped everything. Humanity's expansion beyond Earth had been rapid but messy. Stations floated around the moon, mining facilities dug deep into the crust of Mars, and automated refineries clung to drifting asteroids like metallic parasites. It was impressive for a young species. But to the Dominion, it was amateur work. Inside the observation chamber of the stealth cruiser Silent Alone, a group of Krithari analysts studied the human network grid projected in the air. Signal encryption is crude, one of them reported. We have already bypassed several civilian channels. Another adjusted the holographic display, highlighting clusters of artificial satellites orbiting Earth. Their defense infrastructure relies heavily on orbital sensors. Vorik Shale watched the projection with interest, then removed their eyes. Within minutes, the first phase of the hunt began. Invisible bursts of directed energy flashed across the void. Human satellites went dark. Some simply shut down as their circuitry burned out. Others lost communication and drifted silently through orbit. At first, human operators believed it was malfunction, solar interference, routine technical failure. But the outages spread. Across Earth's orbit, dozens of satellites vanished from a network. Then hundreds. By the time military command centers realized something was wrong, the Dominion had already moved to the second phase, isolation. The first human outpost to disappear was a research station orbiting Europa, one of Jupiter's frozen moons. Its crew never sent a distress signal. The station simply went silent. When a nearby supply ship arrived 2 hours later, its captain found the station intact, but empty. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Just blood streaked across the walls and shattered equipment scattered across the corridors. The captain transmitted a confused report back toward Earth. The message never arrived. A Dominion interceptor destroyed the ship before it could leave the Jovian system. Back on the Apex Predator, the hunt broadcast began. Across the Dominion, billions of Crithari tuned in to watch the opening moments of a new hunt. Massive projection chambers displayed the Sol system in real time. Human ships moved along predictable trade routes, unaware that they were being studied like animals at a watering hole. Vorkshale stood before the gathered captains. The prey remains unaware. He gestured toward the red marker that now highlighted a specific location. Mars Colony, Sector Valles Marineris, a mining and research facility built along the massive canyon system. Population, 312 humans. Security forces, minimal. A perfect opening hunt. 12 Crithari warriors stepped forward. Each wore sleek combat armor that merged biological plating with Dominion technology. Plasma claws extended and retracted along their forearms, glowing faintly in the dim chamber. One of them clicked his mandibles eagerly. Will the prey flee? Vorkshale gave a low, amused rumble. We will find out. Minutes later, a small Dominion dropship detached from the stealth cruiser and descended silently toward the red planet. Mars rotated slowly beneath them. The human colony clung to the edge of a canyon wall, its pressurized domes glowing softly against a dark, rust-colored landscape. Inside the dropship, the hunters prepared. Energy blades activated. Helmet displays flickered to life. Thermal sensors scanned the colony structures below. But something was strange. One hunter frowned at the readings. Minimal movement detected. Another checked his display. Life signs extremely low. Vorkshale watched the data from orbit. Proceed. The dropship landed silently several kilometers away. The hunters moved across the dusty surface with terrifying speed, their powerful limbs easily compensating for Mars' low gravity. Within minutes, they reached the outer perimeter of the colony. No alarm sounded. No guards appeared. The outer airlock opened easily. The first hunter entered and stopped. The corridor beyond was brightly lit. Machines hummed quietly. Workstations displayed active screens. But there were no humans. Strange. One warrior hissed. They moved deeper into the colony. Living quarters. Empty. Medical bay. Empty. Command center. Empty. It looked as though the humans had simply stood up and walked away moments earlier. One of the hunters crouched beside a half-finished meal, sitting on a table. The prey fled, he said. But Vorkshale, watching from orbit, felt something else. Instinct. Predator instinct. Something about the scene was wrong. Maintain caution, he ordered. Inside the colony, the hunters continued their sweep. They split into teams. 2 moved toward the lower maintenance tunnels. 4 advanced toward the reactor chamber. The rest searched the storage sectors. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the floor exploded. Hidden demolition charges ripped through the lower maintenance corridor, collapsing the entire passage beneath 2 warriors. The blast sent fragments of metal and stone slicing through their armor before they could react. The Dominion broadcast erupted with shocked roars. In the colony above, the remaining hunters spun toward the sound. A second explosion detonated. Another hidden charge blue opened a section of wall, forcing the warriors into a narrow corridor. And then the gunfire began. High-velocity kinetic rounds slammed into the corridor from concealed firing positions. Human soldiers emerged from hidden compartments along the ceiling and walls. Their armor was crude compared to Dominion technology, but their weapons were brutally effective. The Crithari reacted instantly. One leapt forward, plasma claws slicing through a barricade. Another lunged toward the nearest human position, but the soldiers retreated quickly, drawing the hunters deeper into the colony, exactly where they wanted them. The humans had mapped every corridor, every choke point, every blind corner. Another trap detonated. Then another. Within minutes, The colony had become a maze of ambushes and kill zones. The hunters fought their way through it, killing every soldier they encountered. But when the last human fell, 3 Krithri warriors were dead. The survivors stood among the wreckage. For the Dominion, it was a shocking result. 3 hunters killed by a supposedly primitive species. Vorkshale replayed the battle recording slowly. Hidden explosives, tactical retreat, coordinated ambush patterns. The humans had known they were coming. They had evacuated the civilians, then stayed behind, not to escape, but to bleed the hunters. Vorkshale felt something unfamiliar stir within him. Excitement. These humans, he murmured, understand the hunt. Across the Dominion, billions of viewers leaned forward eagerly. For the first time in centuries, a prey species had drawn blood. The Krithri Dominion had expected resistance. They had not expected adaptation. Within hours of the Mars ambush, the Dominion fleets advanced deeper into the Sol system. Stealth ships gave way to open warships, vast, angular vessels whose hulls bristled with plasma batteries and gravity lances capable of tearing apart cruisers. The hunt was no longer quiet. It was now a war. Human early warning networks began detecting the intruders too late. Several long-range observatories near Saturn picked up gravitational distortions as Dominion ships decelerated into the system. Automated defense protocols triggered across Earth's military command networks. Within minutes, alarms rang across every major defense station. Unknown fleet, multiple vessels, technologically superior, approaching at high velocity. On Earth, inside the United Nations Orbital Defense Command, officers stare at the tactical display in disbelief. The map of the solar system filled with red markers. Confirmed hostile fleet, one analyst reported. Estimated ship count, 27 capital vessels. Another officer whispered the obvious. That's an invasion. Human fleets mobilized quickly. Despite being technologically outmatched, humanity had one advantage the Krithri had underestimated: numbers. Within hours, dozens of human warships burned hard toward interception points between Earth and the approaching Dominion fleet. Heavy cruisers, destroyers, missile carriers, and improvised military transports filled with kinetic weapon systems. The ships looked crude compared to Dominion vessels. Blocky hulls, external weapon mounts, railgun batteries bolted onto reinforced frames. But they were built for one purpose: to fight. The first major engagement occurred near the orbit of Jupiter. A human defense group led by the battleship UNS Resolute moved to intercept the Dominion strike wing, attempting to bypass the inner defenses. The human commander knew they were outgunned. Dominion plasma cannons outranged their railguns. Dominion shields could absorb most directed energy weapons. But humans had prepared for that possibility. "Launch everything," the captain ordered. Hundreds of missiles erupted from human ships. Nuclear-tipped, kinetic penetrators, electronic warfare payloads. The Dominion vessels fired countermeasures, their defensive lasers carving through incoming missiles. But the humans didn't aim for destruction. They aimed for disruption. Explosions filled the void around the Dominion formation, flooding their sensors with radiation, debris, and electromagnetic interference. For a few crucial seconds, the Dominion fleet was blind. Human railguns fired. Massive tungsten rods accelerated to terrifying speeds, slammed into Dominion shields. Even when the shields held, the sheer kinetic force jolted the alien ships off course. It wasn't enough to destroy them, but it slowed them. And that had been the plan, because something else was drifting nearby. A damaged human carrier, the UNS Black Horizon. Its engines were dark, hull breached, life signs minimal. The Dominion sensors detected it immediately. Vorkshale studied the data with interest. A crippled warship. One captain beside him clicked his mandibles. The prey attempts to flee. Vorkshale tilted his head. No, the ship wasn't moving. It was drifting, abandoned. He zoomed the tactical display closer. Several escape pods floated nearby. The humans had evacuated. Convenient. Perhaps the survivors would be hunted later. For now, the abandoned carrier offered something else. An opportunity. Boarding teams, Vorkshale ordered. Recover technology. The first Dominion boarding craft approached cautiously. Even abandoned human ships could contain traps. Still, the Krithri were confident. Their armor was superior, their weapons unmatched in close quarters. A boarding team of 15 warriors breached the damaged hull and entered the carrier. Inside, the corridors were dark. Emergency lights flickered along the walls. Loose cables swayed in the artificial gravity. One warrior activated thermal sensors. Minimal heat signatures. Another scanned the ship's internal layout. Structural damage throughout. Vorkshale watched through their helmet feeds. Advance! The warriors moved deeper into the ship. Every sound echoed through the empty corridors. Metal creaking, distant electrical sparks, and something else. A faint movement. One hunter turned a corner. Something struck him from behind. Fast, precise. A blade punched through the joint between his armor plates. The Krithri warrior collapsed instantly. His body had not even hit the floor before the attacker vanished into the shadows. The remaining hunters spun around. Contact. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness filled the corridor. A second later, gunfire erupted. Not plasma, not lasers. Human weapons. Compressed flechette launchers firing razor-sharp metal darts faster than sound. The darts hammered into armor joints and sensory clusters. Another warrior fell. Then another. The Dominion broadcast network exploded with shock reactions as viewers watched the helmet feeds descend into chaos. Shapes moved through the darkness. Human figures. Black armor. No visible insignia. Their helmets reflected the faint emergency lights like blank mirrors. They didn't shout. They didn't hesitate. They moved with terrifying coordination. One human slid across the floor, firing bursts that pinned a Krithri warrior behind a bulkhead. Another appeared above from a maintenance hatch, dropping silently behind him. The alien barely turned before a magnetic blade pierced his thoracic cavity. Within 3 minutes, the entire boarding team was dead. Not one human had fallen. The final helmet feed flickered as one of the black-armored soldiers approached the fallen warrior. For a moment, the human studied the alien corpse. Then he calmly disabled the recording device. The broadcast ended. Silence spread through the Dominion viewing chambers. Billions of Krithri had just watched elite hunters slaughtered in close combat. Vorkshale replayed the footage repeatedly. Every movement, every strike, every ambush. These are not ordinary soldiers, one captain said quietly. No, Vorkshale agreed. He accessed intercepted human communications recovered during the battle. One message stood out. Clear, calm, professional. Boarding action successful. Hostile entities neutralized. A second voice responded. Copy that. Deathworlder Special Forces. Proceed to secondary containment zones. Vorkshale leaned closer to the display. Deathworlder, Special Forces. A species born on one of the most hostile planets known. Now fielding elite warriors trained for the most brutal environments imaginable. Predators who had grown up competing with Earth's violent ecosystems. Predators who now hunted in the vacuum of space. Vorkshale felt a slow, dangerous thrill spread through him. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion had encountered prey that could hunt back, and the hunt was becoming very interesting. The Krithri Dominion had faced resistance before. Entire species had fought back during previous hunts. Some had even inflicted casualties. But those moments were brief. Sooner or later, every prey civilization collapsed under Dominion's superior technology and centuries of experience. But the humans refused to collapse. Instead, they adapted. In the days following the failed boarding of the UNS Black Horizon, the Dominion fleet encountered something new. Human tactics began changing. Trade routes vanished. Civilian ships disappeared from open space. Colonies that had once broadcast constant communication suddenly went silent. To the Krithri, the system felt empty, too empty. The prey is hiding, one Dominion captain reported. Vorkshale watched the tactical map carefully. Perhaps, but predator instincts told him something else. The humans were not hiding. They were repositioning. Skirmishes erupted across the asteroid belt. Dominion patrol ships attempting to track human fleet movements suddenly found themselves attacked from unexpected angles. Mining tunnels within asteroids opened to reveal concealed missile launchers. Cargo haulers, previously considered harmless, detached hidden weapon platforms. Autonomous drones swarmed Dominion scouts, overwhelming their sensors and forcing them into defensive maneuvers. It was chaos, not organized warfare. Something worse. Guerrilla war in space. Human commanders had recognized the technological gap immediately, so they had stopped fighting like a traditional navy. Instead, they turned the entire solar system into a battlefield. Every asteroid, every abandoned station, every drifting wreck. Each could hide weapons, soldiers, or traps. The Krithri had hunted prey before, but they had never hunted prey that turned an entire star system into a maze. 3 days into the conflict, Dominion intelligence detected something unusual. A lone human carrier drifting through the outer asteroid belt near Jupiter. The ship's hull was scarred, engines offline, radiation leaking from damaged sections, life signs minimal, a crippled warship. One captain looked at the tactical display. The prey attempts to escape. Vorkshale studied the drifting carrier carefully. It matched the human vessel classification for fleet support ships, capable of carrying dozens of fighters and hundreds of soldiers. If the Dominion captured it intact, they could study human military technology in detail. Valuable trophies. Prepare boarding teams, he ordered. This time, Vorkshale would lead the hunt personally. The Dominion flagship Predator, Eternal, approached the drifting carrier slowly. Sensor scanned every inch of the vessel. No active weapons. No power fluctuations, just a silent warship floating helplessly among the asteroids. Perfect prey. Boarding craft launched. 40 elite Krithri warriors prepared to enter the vessel. Each one was a veteran of dozens of hunts. Each one wore enhanced combat armor, designed specifically for close-quarters combat. Inside the transport bay, Vorkshale addressed them. The prey has wounded us. His mandibles clicked sharply. They believe this makes them hunters. Several warriors hissed in amusement. Vorkshale extended his claws. Today we remind them what a true hunter looks like. The boarding craft slammed into the carrier's damaged hull. Cutting torches carved open an entry point. The hatch fell inward. Darkness greeted them. The interior of the carrier was silent. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridor walls. Gravity fluctuated slightly. The air smelled of burned circuitry and leaking coolant. Vorkshale advanced cautiously. Thermal scan. One warrior checked his sensors. Minimal life signs detected. Another scan deeper into the ship. Multiple sealed compartments. The Krithri spread out. Teams moved through the corridors, clearing each section methodically. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the doors slammed shut. Metal shutters sealed every corridor intersection simultaneously. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. Power surged through the ship. Engines hummed. Artificial gravity stabilized perfectly. Vorkshale froze. This was not a crippled vessel. It was a trap. Before he could issue an order, a voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Com. Human. Boarding confirmed." A pause. Then, Phase 2. Hidden panels across the carrier walls opened. Armored human soldiers stepped out. Dozens of them. Black combat armor. Reflective helmets. Weapons already raised. Deathworlder special forces. The same soldiers who had slaughtered the earlier boarding team. Only now, there were far more of them. Vorkshale quickly assessed the situation. 40 Krithri hunters. Surrounded by at least 70 human special forces. Inside a sealed warship, the humans had engineered the perfect kill box. The first grenade detonated. A human soldier rolled a shock grenade into the alien formation. The blast disrupted Dominion armor sensors for several seconds. That was enough. Human rail carbines fired. Heavy flechette bursts slammed into exposed armor joints. Krithri warriors responded instantly, charging forward with plasma claws blazing. The hangar corridor became a brutal close-quarters battlefield. Humans moved with terrifying coordination. Teams of 3 advanced together. One suppressed. One flanked. One finished the target. A Krithri warrior lunged toward a human soldier and was intercepted by another dropping from a maintenance hatch above. The human drove a blade into the alien's spinal joint. Another Krithri cut down 2 soldiers before a magnetic mine detonated beneath his feet. Every corridor echoed with explosions, gunfire, and the shriek of plasma claws. It was no longer a hunt. It was a slaughterhouse. But this time, the Dominion was losing. The battle pushed into the carrier's central hangar. The remaining Krithri warriors regrouped around Vorkshale. Half their number had already fallen. The humans entered the hangar from every direction. Disciplined, silent, weapons trained. One figure stepped forward. The human commander. Her armor was scarred and marked with multiple combat deployments. Unlike the others, her helmet visor slid open, revealing calm, focused eyes. She studied the towering alien in front of her. Vorkshale straightened to his full height. "So," he said slowly, "the prey shows its teeth." The woman tilted her head slightly. "You came to our system." Her voice carried across the hangar. "You started this." Vorkshale flexed his claws. "We hunt the weak." The human commander gave a faint smile. "Then you picked the wrong planet." Behind her, more soldiers entered the hangar. Not dozens. Hundreds. The entire carrier had been filled with hidden troops. The Dominion hunters were completely surrounded. For the first time in centuries, Vorkshale felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, but realization. The Dominion had misunderstood the nature of their prey. They had assumed humans were a young species struggling to survive among stronger civilizations. But humanity had evolved on a world where survival required constant adaptation. Predators, disasters, war. Humans had been fighting for survival since the beginning of their species. And when an external threat appeared, they did what they had always done. They adapted, they fought, and they hunted back. The human commander gave a final order. "Stand down." Behind her, hundreds of weapons remained trained on the remaining Krithri warriors. Vorkshale looked around the hangar.